Hello, this is Dr. Brian Miller from the Ayurvedic College of Wellbeing. And this is our class in the Introduction to Anatomy and Physiology. You might wonder why Western anatomy and physiology would be important in a course of Ayurveda. And this has to do with the historical perspective of how humankind came into its understanding of anatomy and physiology. From very early on, the ancients were developing an understanding of the functioning of the human body and some of its structure. And but because of the culture, because of the limitations in scientific advancement, they often came up with a slightly different construct of the human body than Western anatomy has. An example of that would be the traditional Chinese medicine understanding of the energy systems of the body, the electrical and the magnetic energy systems of the body as found in the acupuncture meridian system, which was highly developed and is now recognized by modern medicine as being applicable to the human body. Charts, anatomical reference charts, it's all there, and it's now included in what we understand of the human body. Similarly, Ayurveda has its own understanding of the human body, how it moved, how energy and nutrients move through it. And we'll be going into that in detail. But at the same time, we need to have a very in-depth understanding of Western anatomy and physiology. The people that come to you as clients are going to be coming with symptoms and complaints based on their understanding of Western anatomy and physiology. And you want to know more than these people do. You want to be experts at the human body, not at the level of physician, but at the level of comprehension and understanding of function and architecture of the human body. So we're going to begin today with anatomy and physiology. As an overview, anatomy is the structure of the human body, much like the blueprints of a house are going to show you where the beams in the house are, where the water lines run, where the electrical lines run. The blueprint is going to show all of this. But the actual understanding of the electricity in the house, the plumbing in the house, that's going to be the function and in the purview of the contractors that are managing those systems and understand exactly how they work. If they don't know how the septic system works, the house is going to be in big trouble. My father, his first job out of college as a sanitary engineer, he ran 100 yards of sewer line uphill. Well, that doesn't work, and it had to all be redone with a new survey and a downward flow so that it would actually go somewhere. It wouldn't just back up. And so all of this is terrifically important. Anatomy, the structure, physiology, the function. And then there are branches of anatomy. We have the surface anatomy, and we have the gross anatomy, and we have the microscopic anatomy. So the structural organization, at the chemical level, we have atoms forming molecules, and molecules forming compounds. At the cellular level, the individual cells, the skin cells, the nerve cells, and their subunits. So at the cellular level, you have the structural anatomy of the cell with the nucleus and the cell wall and the centrioles and the other structures in the cell. And those cells come together to perform a similar function, and you have your tissue level of structural organization. And then these different tissues come together to again orchestrate a certain chemical movement or biological movement in the body, and this would be at the level of the organ or the organic level. So the liver being made up of various tissues contributing toward the digestive and the chemical systems in the body. And then these organs will group together and sometimes work as a system. For instance, the digestive tract is composed, as we learned last week, of the mouth, the teeth, the tongue, the esophagus, the stomach, liver, gallbladder, pancreas, small intestine, 3 parts, large intestine. And so together they all make the GI tract or the digestive system. And then all of these systems come together to form the organism, whether it be a human body or an orangutan or a snail. It's all made up from the chemical level all the way up to the level of the functioning organism. And the functioning organism has everything that it needs to survive. It has the ability to process nutrients, to process and absorb oxygen, get rid of CO2, to eliminate waste, and receive stimulation from the outer environment. And this is true at the organ level, almost the definition of life. It's also true at the cellular level. The cells themselves need all of these things. They need nutrients, they need oxygen, they need to eliminate waste, they need to have stimulation, and they need to reproduce themselves as we do as organisms for the continuation of the human race. So at the structural organizational level, you can see here at the chemical level, the molecules are formed into cells which make up tissues, and the tissues come together to form an organ, in this case a muscle. And then the muscles, in this case the organs, join together at the organ system level. In this case we're seeing the vascular system with the heart, lungs, and makeup of the entire human organism. So there's 2 approaches to anatomy. There's a systemic approach, which is system by system, and then there's a regional approach where they'll take the upper extremity, the lower extremity, the trunk, the head, divided into regions of the face and the skull. So these 2 different approaches, they both work, and often a book will come at the human body in a regional approach, and then sometimes they come at a systemic approach. So the system by system breakdown, we're going to go first through the integumentary system, which forms the external body covering. It protects the deeper tissues. It synthesizes vitamin D in the pigment cells. It's the site of cutaneous receptors, so we have communication with the outer environment. So we have our pain receptors, pressure, etc. We have our sweat and oil glands to nourish the surface of the skin and also to cool the body off. We also have the skeletal system, which is our framework. Many animals have an external skeletal system, like horseshoe crab or turtle. We have an internal skeletal system. It protects and supports the body organs, forms a framework for muscles to attach onto, and within the bones themselves are cells that form bloods and store minerals. So skeletal system does a lot of different things. The muscular system allows manipulation of the environment. It allows for locomotion and movement. It allows for facial expression and maintains posture. And the muscular system produces heat. 1/3 of all the metabolism in the body takes place in the muscles. So right away, a person with a highly developed muscular system is going to be at a metabolic advantage over someone who doesn't exercise. So, Ayurveda sees fitness of the muscular system as an important aspect of health. The nervous system is a fast-acting control system. It responds to internal and external changes. It's composed of the cranial nerves, the peripheral nerves, central nerves, and the autonomic nervous system. The endocrine system are a series of glands whose excretions go into the bloodstream, into the cerebral spinal fluid, and they change the function of specific tissue beds. And so we have estrogen. When it's released, it stimulates breast tissue, it stimulates ovarian tissue. Adrenaline stimulates the release of sugar from glycogen and from the muscles into the bloodstream. Thyroxine in the thyroid increases the metabolic rate of all the cells in the whole body. So each one of these glands produces specific substances that alter the function and sometimes the structure of the body. So we'll be spending time with each one of these systems in detail, but the overview continues with the cardiovascular system being composed of the heart and the arteries, which carry the oxygenated blood, from the lungs to the tissue, and the veins, which carry the deoxygenated blood back. The lymphatic system is an often ignored system. It wasn't as apparent as the blood circulatory system. The vessels are very small, very clear. They can be mistaken for capillaries by the early anatomists. We now know that the lymph is everywhere, and it carries a good amount of the fluid that's leaked from the blood vessels and to feed the tissue. And it carries that blood back and delivers it into the circulatory system near the heart for recirculation, for cleansing. And so the lymphatic system is stimulated by body movement, and so exercise stimulates the lymphatic system, and very important for elimination of cellular waste. It also houses white blood cells, and it mounts attacks against any foreign substances that are detected in the tissue beds of the body. The respiratory system keeps the blood supplied with oxygen. It removes carbon dioxide, and the gas exchange occurs in the very end pockets of respiratory distribution, called alveoli, little air sacs that are surrounded by capillaries, so that exchange can be very profound. The digestive system we learned about in our first class, and of course it breaks down food into usable and absorbable units. And then anything indigestible is eliminated as waste. The urinary tract eliminates nitrogenous waste, a chemical form of waste containing nitrogen from the breakdown of proteins. It regulates water, electrolyte balance, and acid-base balance. The reproductive system, overall, it's to produce offspring. The testes produce male sperm and male hormones. The ovaries produce eggs and female hormones. The mammary glands produce milk. So in gross anatomy, we have certain terminologies that are used so that across the entire world, a doctor in Tokyo can know what part of the body someone is describing if they describe the anterior or lateral forearm. They know exactly that they're talking about this right here. And so the anatomical position is a position from which these body parts are named and referenced. Human body could stand like this or like this, but we've decided in order to uniformly label parts, we're going to do it in this position, so there's no ambiguity about it. The feet are together, the person is erect, the eyes are forward, the palms are facing forward with the thumbs away from the body. And so that's the first term, the anatomical position. In regional terms, the axial region is the main axis or trunk of the body. The appendicular region are the limbs. So you have the upper appendix and the lower appendix. Directional terminology refers to the body in the anatomical position, and there are standardized terms, often they're paired, that indicate directions in the body. So superior refers toward the head or the upper part of the structure. Inferior or caudal refers to away from the head toward the lower part of the body. Anterior or ventral refers to the front of the body. Posterior or dorsal refers to the back of the body. Superficial refers toward the surface of the body. Deep refers to away from the surface of the body, more internally. Ipsilateral is on the same side, contralateral is on the opposite side. Medial is toward the midline of the body, if you divide the body right in half here. Away from this midline is lateral, so toward the lateral, like in football, you make a lateral pass, going it out to this side. Proximal refers to the origin of the body part, or the point of attachment. So the proximal part of the arm would be here where it attaches to the trunk. Distal refers to the farther or more distant part of the body, so toward the fingers, the end points. So examples, the heart is medial to the arm. The arms are lateral to the chest. The elbow is proximal to the wrist, and the knee is distal to the thigh. So each of the body parts in regional terms has been named. So in this cephalic or the head region, we have the frontal area, the orbital area, the nasal area, the oral area, and the chin is known as the mental area. The ancients believed that people tugged on their chin when they were thinking, so that's why it's called the mental area. Interesting. The thinker. The cervical area refers to the neck. In the upper limb, we have the acromial area, the brachial area, the antebrachial area, the carpal or wrist area, and the manu, or the palm, and hand, and the pollex would be like you vote with your poll, pollex, and these would be digits or digital. This would be palmar. In the thoracic area, this is in the center is the sternal. Toward the breast is the axillary region, toward the underarm. This whole region is the abdominal with the umbilicus in the center. Below that is the pelvic region, or the pelvic bowl. Down in the inguinal area, separating the pelvis from the lower extremity, that would be the groin. And the pubic area refers to the genital area. Down in the lower limb, we have the hip or coccyx, the femur or femoral area of the thigh. Patella is the knee. Crural refers to the foreleg. Fibular on the outside. Tibial on the inside. Pedal refers to foot. Tarsal refers to ankle. Metatarsal refers to the foot itself, with the digits of the foot being digital, and the big toe being hallux. On the back side, we have the cephalic area, otic, occipital, cervical. In the upper limb, chromial, brachial, olecramal, antebrachial, the forearm, the manus, the hand, metacarpals, the palm, digital, the fingers. In the back, we have the scapular area of the shoulder blade. We have the vertebral area up in the center of the spine, marked by this arrow. We have the lumbar, sacral, and gluteal areas, the cheeks. In the lower limb, we have the femoral, behind the knee, the popliteal. Sural refers to calf. Fibular or peroneal is the outside compartment of the leg. Calcaneal would be the heel, and plantar is the bottom of the foot. And the perineal refers to the area between the anus and the genitals. There are planes of the body, so the coronal plane or the frontal plane lies vertically and divides the body into anterior and posterior parts. Medium or mid-sagittal plane indicates a line vertically through the midline and divides the body into the right and the left. Transverse plane at the waist runs horizontally, divides the body into the superior and inferior body parts. And an oblique section through the trunk, so you can name an oblique plane. This might be used in forensics to describe the trajectory of a bullet or a slice of a wound, but not so much in anatomy. There are body cavities and membranes. The dorsal body cavity contains the cranial cavity and the vertebral cavity, and the ventral cavity contains the thoracic cavity with the heart and the lungs, and the abdominal cavity with the digestive organs, visceral, kidneys, peritoneal cavity. And finally, the pelvic cavity contains the bladder and reproductive organs, rectum, and peritoneal cavity. Other body cavities include the oral cavity of the mouth, the nasal cavity of the nose, the orbital cavities of the eyes, the middle ear cavities, and the synovial cavities of the joints. The abdominal regions divide the abdomen into 9 regions. The right hypochondriac region, the epigastric, the left hypochondriac region, the right lumbar region, the umbilical region containing the umbilicus, the left lumbar region, the left iliac, the hypogastric, and the right iliac or inguinal region. And you can see on the right here, we can see all of the different organs and how they're piled one on top of the other. As we learn the systems, we'll separate them out so we can see how they flow and they move. The abdominal quadrants are divided into 4 parts: right upper, right lower, left lower. And this concludes our introduction to the human body. In future classes, we're going to be going system by system. We've already done the GI tract, and we'll be going into the skeletal system next, learning not only the names of the bones, but what happens in the bone cells in terms of all the different functions, the storage of minerals, the various parts of the bone that develop the strong strength that supports our posture. So I look forward to being with you next month or next week with our next anatomy class. Thank you.